The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, so I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
It's the Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 48. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. We're talking Gopher football again this week, and we have a unique, what I'd call hybrid podcast. We have current Gopher wide receiver Clay Geary and former Gopher tight end Ben Utecht with us. We'll talk about this year's Gopher football team, the big win over Wisconsin, the upcoming bowl game at Yankee Stadium, and much more. We'll also talk to both of these great Gophers because they work together in a unique environment at True North, the parent company of our great podcast sponsor, Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Ben is the Chief Culture Officer, while Clay is winding down an internship, which has led him to be ready to start a full-time job at Sunbelt at the start of the year. So we find out the unique approach of True North and how it resembles that of Gopher football and its culture as well. Our Go Gopher podcast is indeed presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. The Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm is also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, making it easier with local financial experts available to help in person or virtually. Learn more at affinityplus.org/GoGophers. They have a top-ranked mobile app as well, and they sponsor our player profile each week. Our podcast is also sponsored by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at ChamplinInsurance.com. I invite you to subscribe to our podcast. It's free to click the subscribe button. You can listen at any time. You can also go back and listen to our previous podcast. That includes last week's show, where we had the first in-depth interview of Gopher quarterback Ethan Kelly McManus, and we love that conversation. Trust me, it's worth going back to listen to. This week, we're talking Gopher football once again. It's the Go Gopher podcast number 48, former Gopher tight end Ben Utecht, and current Gopher wide receiver Clay Geary. Our conversation is next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utecht, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
Hey Gopher fans, this is your State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. We are super excited to be part of the new Mike Grimm Show on Talk North. For the year of 2022, we will be donating $10 to the University of Minnesota Children's Masonics Hospital for everyone that calls our office or checks in with us online and mentions that they heard about us on Talk North and the Mike Grimm Show. We are really excited again that Mike came on board with Talk North. You can reach us at 763-421-4900. You can find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Again, 763-421-4900, or find us on the web at ChamplinInsurance.com. Roll the boat, Sky Uma, go Gophers.
Welcome back. It's episode 48, the Go Gopher podcast with Mike Grimm, and we are thrilled to have with us a former Gopher pass catcher and a current Gopher pass catcher. Ben Utecht was with the Golden Gophers from 2000 to 2003, had a great career, had, in terms of receptions, 15 touchdown receptions, and then played 4 years with the Indianapolis Colts, won a Super Bowl, and is a Minnesota native, and he's guest one. Ben, glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
And we have the current Gopher pass catcher, Clay Geary, who was with us. He's one of those guys that we can't get rid of him, man. He's been around forever. 7 years as a Golden Gopher football player. Had that great touchdown catch against Colorado this year. He'll be playing at Yankee Stadium here later this month. Clay Geary, Lakeville South. And Clay, good to see you.
Great to see you.
And part of the reason we bring you together, because I think a couple, 2 or 3 listeners might be going, well, okay, this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear from Ben and hear from Clay, but why are they on together? And the answer is one of our sponsors of the show, our chief primary sponsor, is Sunbelt Business Advisors under the umbrella, the total umbrella of True North. And both of you guys have a role within that company. So we're going to talk some football. We're going to find out what you guys do for that company and what the culture's like in that company as well. And we'll start with Ben. After your NFL career, I know you have done a lot. You have so many great interests. You're a great family man. You've sung the national anthem at various events. You've put out albums. You've caught touchdown passes. You've played in a Super Bowl. And now, after all of that, you are working with our friend Brian Slipka, who helps us with this podcast and all kinds of great Gopher causes and just really good charitable items all over the state of Minnesota. How did you guys get connected, and what is your role with Sunbelt?
Well, my academic passion actually at the University of Minnesota was communications, and not because it was the typical easy athlete degree that everybody loves to joke around about, but actually, Mike, because I grew up watching my dad as a pastor get up and talk to people every weekend and learned about the power of words, and so I always knew that I wanted to be a speaker, and so as I retired from the NFL, I kind of stepped back and realized how special it was to have been on that Super Bowl championship Colts team with Hall of Fame head coach Tony Dungy, Peyton Manning, even the general manager of the team, Bill Polian, is in the Hall of Fame. So it really is a impressive organization, and so I began to take all of these powerful lessons out of that championship culture and begin to create programs and figure out ways to actually bring those principles into other organizations. And that's in part what I've been doing over the last 10 years. And so my friendship with Brian Slipka really turned into an opportunity to come alongside his passion and his organization to do the exact same thing, right? To create that uncommon Tony Dungy culture that was so powerful in Indianapolis.
And what are some of the pillars of that you use, one, in your own life, but two, as you try to help guide? And when we talk about Brian, it's not just guide a company, it's guide companies, right? Because he, of course, has his hand in a lot of different things. What are some of the pillars that you learned over the course of your time that you now try to implement within one, your talks when you talk to people, and two, within these companies? Well,
when it comes to the talk, it was really difficult because, and you know this, Mike, the power of sports produces a lot of great life lesson opportunities, right? There's so many principles to consider, and I had to try and synthesize those. And when I do my presentation, I really focus on these 4 foundational beliefs around what does it mean to be a champion listener, a champion learner, a champion language user, someone who can communicate clearly and effectively. And then surprisingly, the last principle is love. What does it mean to respect and value your team members deeply? And it might sound odd to incorporate that word into a football locker room, but I promise you, and you can ask Clay the same question, there is a brotherhood that exists. That brotherhood really does exist around companionate love. What does it mean to just truly value someone deeply? And so, those are what I speak about to inspire people to believe that the human condition at work is ultimately what culture is. And so when Brian Slipke asked me to be his chief culture officer, the idea was we need to take the secret sauce that comes out of Brian and the leaders that he's put into place, and we need to make an objective chosen culture. And that's what we did. And we built out True North's first ever organizational creed that's built on integrity, trust, humility, wisdom, execution, accountability, commitment, and love. Those are the founding non-negotiables of the True North way. And so we've built that, and now we're going to spend, as much time as it takes to use those in a highly effective and impactful way.
And Brian has talked a lot about, I think the term he uses, and we've talked about it a lot, is servant leadership. So he's in a position where he can serve, and you get in that with the company culture as well. And I know that's part of what you're doing. Take us through servant leadership and what that means to you and the company.
Man, that's everything. That really was the Dungy way. The belief is that if you build better men, you get better football players, and this is the Fleck way as well.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's one thing I really respect about PJ, above all else, is that it's not just a game; it's about the transformation of people. And Clay can speak better to this than anybody. But if you pour into the human condition, Mike, if you pour into creating deeper value and purpose in people's lives, then they'll give you everything they've got. And that's where you get the full commitment and devotion, loyalty out of people. And that's ultimately what servant leadership is designed to do, is improve the human condition at work. And that's the foundation of Brian's entire company at True North, right? And he likes to focus on what does it mean to encourage, equip, collaborate, and uplift people. And that's something that he takes very seriously and he practices in his own life. And if he can build an organization around that foundation, then not only is he building good business, but more importantly, he's building better lives, and he's giving people a chance to grow and to thrive themselves. And that's ultimately the goal.
It's funny you mention it that way, because even today I was in on a Zoom news conference about the Pinstripe Bowl, and PJ Fleck and Dino Babers, the two head coaches involved in this game, were among several people that talked, and they both talked about that idea. And PJ had a line in there, which we've heard him say before, is if I can create better people, they automatically become better football players because of what you just talked about. They become reliable. They become dependable. They become people you can love. They'll pour into it. They're unselfish, all those things. And I guess we'll ask a guy who's been in the middle of it now, a 7-year player, right? And 6 of those have been with head coach PJ Fleck, Clay Geary, and take us through kind of maybe you see some similarities between, well, first of all, let's do this. Let's set the stage as to what your role is with True North and with Sunbelt currently. And it sounds like you have an exciting future with them too once your playing days are finally over with that game at Yankee Stadium. Clay, good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So currently right now I'm interning under the True North Holding Company. So I'm working with Brian and the True North Equity Partners team. Really the list of duties is endless. I mean, it can range from data gathering to stewardship of all the portfolio companies that you mentioned, but it's been an awesome experience. You really are thrown in to the fire and are forced to have creative problem solving and rely on this culture creed that we've established and really have it guide the way that we act. And so I'm looking forward to the future where I'll be at Sunbelt starting January 2nd as a financial analyst. And, the culture is infected every company under True North. And one thing that Coach Fleck talks about, like you mentioned, I'm sure I could probably draw a lot of similarities between, the rowboat culture and True North, and couldn't be more true because, what we talk about in the football facility is, not being affected by the outside world and rather infecting the rest of the world. And the same goes with True North. We have a proactive culture that is a chosen culture, like Ben mentioned, and we're out here to infect other people with the positivity that, this culture brings. And so it's been a lot of fun for me to transfer essentially from, Coach Fleck and his leadership to Brian's, and be able to use all of the tools that, Coach Fleck has equipped me along the way.
It seems too. I know it's not. It doesn't seem. I know for a matter of fact that PJ Fleck and Brian Slipka have gotten to be fairly close too through their connections, through I think similar beliefs, but also just through Brian being a big Gopher fan, an alum of the university, and their sponsorship of different things have gotten them into the same places to the point where they are friends now. And I'm sure they share similar philosophies, like, hey, this has been working for us, and this has been working for you, and what do you think about this? And I found this as an impact. And do you see that, Clay, when you go between the two buildings now, when you're in Sunbelt or True North, and then when you're back at the football complex?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really in the same culture. It's just different environments. And you talked about creating, better people who then, turn into better football players. And, the first pillar of the row the boat culture, of the hyper culture, is the H, which is the how. That starts with the people. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so when you develop better people that are more dependable, people that embody that servant leadership, that selflessness, the family, forget about me, I love you. I mean, there's so many different similarities that I can draw from the locker room to the business field. And it's special that I get that perspective. And I feel super blessed and fortunate to be in a culture that is proactive, and it goes out and infects people with, its pillars.
And when we think about that, the one of the things over the course of years, and Ben, you can speak to this as well, although in Tony Dungy's case, it's his approach has at times almost been low-key but motivational. And I know you and I have talked about this at different events in the past, where he would go through a practice and not curse and go through things and say, I can teach without having to do that. Not to say that coaches who do, and we've been around a few who have, are wrong. It's just a different approach, and I'm not going to say that PJ Fleck is curse-free, so to speak, in a practice or two. He can certainly let a guy know that, hey, the level has not been met, and we expect a higher standard, and that's certainly how you coach guys. But that said, as it goes through, and as you see this kind of common theory, one thing over the time is that PJ has talked about in his case, and I'm wondering how that might relate to the business world, is that his program is not for everyone, that this is the way we do it, this is the way we like it, this is how it works for us, and if you want to be a part of it, you're going to get on board and you're going to have success. And if it isn't quite a fit, and he says it ain't for everybody, then maybe you need to find a different program, go play football somewhere else. And I wonder if in the business world there's not some similarities, Ben, with that, and not to say that, oh, you're just going to fire somebody, but there has to be this kind of common thinking right across the spectrum of a company. Not to say you can't be diverse and can't have different thoughts and all of that, but there does have to be, at some point, to use PJ's term, you all got to kind of row in the same direction.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to frame it, Mike. One of the things I've learned over some really special mentorships that I've been blessed to have the last 10 years with a couple of different chief people officers in the Fortune 100, obviously in that level, you're dealing with tens of thousands of employees. And so, diversity, equity, inclusivity, this is obviously a very important theme in corporate America today. And so what does culture actually look like when you have to onboard that type of talent? And I think that the way I like to describe it is that you're really giving an inclusive invitation to an exclusive opportunity. Right. And that's to say that every company is going to have its identity. Right. And ultimately, you want people to find a home that supports and helps them grow and develop their identity into its peak performance. And if a person comes into a company or onto a football program even, and that culture is not a fit, it's going to be very challenging for them to grow and to thrive. And so I do think that there's actually it's important to understand that kind of the exclusivity that exists around a chosen culture, a chosen and practiced belief system is a really great quality to have, because the more defined that can be, the better chance you give people in the talent acquisition process an opportunity to decide if this is the right fit for them. And that's ultimately what you want to do, so that you decrease turnover and increase sustainability, right? And that's true for a football team as it is for a company.
Yeah, and you think about a football team all wanting the same goal, and that is to win a football game on Saturday, go to a nice bowl game, as this team will do. And yet you think of that locker room, there's 100 guys in there, and some from, all of them are from different places, obviously, unless you're the Ethan, Kelly, McManus, and Dino. They're from the same house, but and there have been other brothers. But you get my point, is that they're all from different places. Many are from different economic backgrounds, different states, different areas, different races, different religions, even. But yet, because of the main message, the common thought that there's a goal at the end of it, and we can all get there. There's some things to be learned from that, and I think the college football locker room is one of the most unique places, and you think about it, on the planet, with all these different melting pots of people getting together for the same goal. And if you're all on the same page, you can do special things. And Clay, maybe you can talk about this year's version of the Gophers and what that locker room was like.
Yeah, I mean, this year was one of the more connected teams that I've been a part of. And, we have a saying, the most connected team is the most dangerous team. And it couldn't be more true in football and in the business world, because it doesn't matter the level of talent you have. It's about, how quickly can you get everyone in alignment, rowing in the same direction at the same speed at the same time. And, it's about execution from a team standpoint rather than an individual standpoint. I mean, you can have 10 guys in the field, do their job, and one guy messes up and it ruins the entire play. And so I just think, again, like, there's so many parallels that you can draw from business world and the football field. But with this team that we had this year, it was special. And we didn't necessarily have an undefeated record, but it's not about the result. And that's one thing that I've learned in the row the boat culture, is that we don't focus on the result. We focus on the process and the journey getting there, because that's where true character is developed, and that's where your soul is developed effectively. And I mean, that you carry that with you throughout the rest of your life. And if you're out here chasing the result, chasing the end goal, you're never going to be satisfied. And you're always going to be, you're going to feel like it didn't fulfill me. We went undefeated, but I don't feel fulfilled. I feel like there's something I can still do. And that's because, the process wasn't the most important thing. Enjoying every single day in the locker room with these guys wasn't the most important thing. It was about the win. And so I look back in this team, and every single guy, and you're going to have outliers, but the majority of the team is, for each other and selfless. And, we don't all have to like each other, but we have to love each other. And it was special to be a part of that locker room, and it made coming back for a seventh year all the more worth it. I mean, that's why you play football, is for, the guys next to you. I mean, that's the greatest part about it. You're playing for the man next to you, not for yourself. This isn't an individual sport. It's the greatest team sport there is. And I look at True North and the umbrella of companies under True North, and every single company represents the same values when it comes to a team standpoint. Everyone's connected. Everyone's selfless. I mean, you look at Sunbelt, they're business brokers, and it's a competitive environment where you eat what you kill. But you wouldn't find a more connected company. Everyone is. It doesn't matter. Again, like they have results that they shoot for. Everyone's going to have a result and goals, but it's not about that. It's about the process and relationships, and developing relationships with these small business owners that they're working with, and taking the value of stewardship that True North embodies to ultimately preserve the legacy of these companies.
It's great. Ben, what do you remember, too, about the locker room, whether it was here at the University of Minnesota or with the Indianapolis Colts, and in regard to what you took from that and then put together, what you now do for a living?
Well, man, I mean, I think the foundation of so much of it was there. Here's one thing I'll say that's I think is really powerful to understand is a difference. And the difference is practice. And one thing that's always kind of an eye opener for corporate executives to ponder maybe for the first time is that, in the NFL, in college football and in the NFL, you practice 95% of the time to play 5%, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're 6 days a week practicing every minute of every single day, intentionally designed, to improve your weaknesses, to perform a 3-hour football game. But then that of the 3 hours as an offense, you're only out there 45 minutes of that 3 hours in totality, right? So all of that practice in order to become the best you possibly can be to perform for 45 minutes a week is the reality of professional sports. But in the business world, it's the complete opposite, right? You might get 2% of development or practice opportunity, for life skills or for these types of principles that truly improve the human condition. And so therein lies the importance of the how, and Clay talked about that. Everything that I do in culture revolves around the what, why, and how. And it's the how in which you truly build a successful culture. How do you practice these non-negotiable beliefs and values in order to truly develop them in yourselves so that they can actually have an impact on your behavior? And if you don't actually practice it, then it's literally just words on a page. And unfortunately, I think traditionally that's what most value statements are, right? Mm-hmm. It's going way beyond that to build out an entire game plan that you can practice to make it effective.
Real quickly, I want to get in another word for one of our other sponsors on the podcast here, and that is Affinity Plus. It's your local credit union, proudly serving Minnesota since 1930. As a current Gopher student or a proud Gopher alum, you're eligible to join this financial. Wanting to build a meaningful banking relationship and put you first, you can meet with a local employee at any of their branches statewide, including right off campus in Minneapolis. To learn more or find another way to connect, go to affinityplus.org/go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/go Gophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA, and they're also doing great work. They do so much for the Special Olympics Minnesota. We're having on campus some recognition for some of the different cool Special Olympics athletes at each one of the events, and Affinity Plus is helping with that as well. They do the polar plunge and a bunch of other stuff in addition. Right now we're talking with Clay Geary, current Gopher, Ben Utecht, former Gopher. It's the Go Gopher podcast, and we're glad you're with us here. Hopefully you're enjoying some of this conversation. So much to learn from these two guys that have been through cultures. And Clay Geary, to be young again and to think about the future you have and the experience you've had. 7 years of college. I just love it. It's great. I think back to when I was in college, and at the time I'm like, I can't wait to get out. I'm ready to go to the real world. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I'd have had 7 years. That would have been fun to stick around. So you're living the dream, my friend. And then to have work waiting for you when you're done is even better. So congrats on all of that. But let's talk about the 2022 Gopher football team for just a little bit if we can. Clay, since you're a member of that team and have been an impactful player on that team in a bunch of different ways, we talked about the touchdown against Colorado and some of the other things and some really cool wins. The win at Nebraska, 20 points in the second half to come back, and you were on the field for some of that. And then the Wisconsin game, of course, that's one of my favorite memories. Whenever you beat Wisconsin in any sport, it's a big deal. But let's talk about that first, Clay Geary, getting Paul Bunyan's axe for a second straight year. And knowing that for the final time in your career on the football field in the regular season against those guys, you got to keep it. What was that day like?
Yeah, I mean, that was special. I just got chills even listening to that. I mean, it's one of the greatest rivalries in college football. I mean, that's something that you'll remember the rest of your life. And in my time at the U of M, I've gotten axed, 3 times. not many players can say that who are still alive, I guess. But it's special because I look at all the work that this team has put in, and the way that our season went, and then to get a win against Wisconsin last game of the year. With all the adversity we faced, we came together and got the win to bring the Axe back to Minneapolis. Like that was special. I mean, it's all about everything that led up to that point. That's what made it so special. And yeah, I love this team. I love this group of guys, and they earned it.
I want to ask you, too, the guy that leads your wide receiver room, in addition to you, is Chris Altman-Bell. Of course, he suffered that knee injury in the Colorado game. He's still been around practice. I remember the day he had surgery. We were leaving to go to Michigan State, I believe, that day, and or maybe it was Wednesday of that week, and he stopped at practice before surgery because he just wanted to come and see you guys. And then as the year progresses, you see some guys step up. You have stepped up. And then on that final day, Lemeke Brockington steps up with just this great touchdown play right down the middle of the field. He was not going to be denied. I didn't know he had that burst in him. He did, and it was incredible. I mean, what about that receiver room and how it all developed this season?
Yeah, we just have so much depth in that room. I mean, one guy goes down, another steps up. It's a next man up mentality, and we're always going to be prepared and ready for the task, and that we can attribute that to Coach Simon, who gets us, more than prepared for every single week. But with Lemeke, I knew it was only a matter of time. And when I saw him catch that ball, I was like, oh, he's gone. Everyone on our team knows how fast Lemeke is. And I call him Dirt Track because he actually grew up running on horse tracks and racing. And so he is fast as can be. And when I saw him catch the ball and take off, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's scoring for sure. There's no doubt. Well, and that was awesome. That was one of the most ecstatic moments that I've had in a game, to be honest.
Well, and if anyone gets a chance to hear the radio call of that, I actually, Justin Gard, when he heard the highlight played back later, he's like, man, you were really excited. I'm like, I was just in shock that it was, of course I'm going to be excited because I loved the play, but I did not, I watch practice and you don't get a chance. I do think people sometimes misunderstand what practice is about. Ben mentioned it, 95% of your time is spent on the practice field, but even within that time, there isn't, frankly, and at least in my amateur observation, a lot of time for guys just to make a statement in practice. Once the season starts, it's a lot of scouts. It's a lot of, hey, here's what we want to do in this situation. So honestly, okay, Lemeke's going, and I'm watching. I'm like, he's going to get to the 30 or so, and first down, got the first key, and he just run. So the surprise in my voice, it was sincere. I guess I'm proud of the call only in the sense that it was one, of course, you're going to get excited, but two, you could hear the sincere, holy crap, this guy is gone, down the center of the field. So it was pretty cool. And I don't know, Ben, if you got a chance to watch that game, and it was like a lightning bolt. It's just
awesome.
It was great. Yeah. And so Ben, what were your thoughts when you were watching that?
I felt the same way you did, Mike, man. It was pretty special, and anytime you catch that slant and break the safeties, it's such an awesome highlight. And so I was just really happy for him. And just even hearing Clay tell, anytime you get to learn a little bit more about someone's life, it just makes it even more meaningful. So to hear where he came from and how he grew up running and then it translates over to the field, man, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. And I also think it's cool that Clay, Ben, shared it with just true joy, because sometimes, particularly maybe at the pro level, but Clay and Lemeke could be fierce competitors. They both want to play, they both want to catch passes, they both want to score touchdowns, but there was true sincere joy as Clay was describing that, and I think that's pretty cool. You talk about the love of a team.
Yeah, that's something that's really unique about being a part of a football program is especially one that is led by coaches like PJ, is it's a fascinating environment, because you're right, Mike, everybody is competing to play, and yet to do that with humility and empathy it's a weird combination to talk about, because you want to be a starter, at the same time you care a lot about the people you play next to. So it's a really powerful combination, which is why Clay was right when he talked about the hardest team to dismantle is the family.
Yeah, the connected team, no question. I thought too the impressive part of that play was one we mentioned, it's a lightning strike, but if you recall, and I think I'm recalling this correctly, the previous two series I believe were both 3 and outs, and I think the immediate previous series was 2 sacks. And you're like, this thing might be going the wrong way here. Gophers did tie it 16-16, and then you're thinking, and I thought to have Ethan Kaliakmanis, the redshirt freshman, again in another tough spot, right? Hey, go play at Penn State in your first start, and then get thrown into that Nebraska game at halftime and score 20 points and bring the team back, and maybe that test that day helped him in this test in Madison. But Clay, you can talk about it. Obviously, you've been in the huddle with him. What's it like to have Ethan in there, obviously learning under Tanner, and then to have him respond after, the sacks likely weren't his fault, although when I had him on the podcast last week, he said the second one probably was. He didn't slide up in the pocket like he should have, and took responsibility for it. But you get the point. It could be easy to get down, and he just comes out and he threw a strike to Brevin, then he throws the strike to Brockington, and it's a touchdown and it's a win. What's it been like watching Ethan develop when he got his chance here?
Yeah, you can tell that he's a resilient person, and whether he developed that as a young kid, throughout high school playing football, and then on scout team, like he's been nothing but resilient and has risen above the occasion. Like he is. He has really impressed the entire team, and just to being that calm under pressure, as such a young guy who has a limited amount of experience, he stepped in there like a seasoned vet, and that's what a team needs. You need the quarterback's the leader of the room, and Tanner has been one of the best leaders that I've been around, and Ethan has learned so much from him, and you see it really shed light out there on the football field. And it's about his composure, resiliency, just his ability to stay cool and focus on the next play. Next play mentality, where it doesn't matter what happened play before, because we have another opportunity to improve. So yeah, it was, the feeling on the sideline was it wasn't like 3 and out. Because again, like I'm around these guys, like I know them like the back of my hand, and I know the types of I know the mindsets that they all have, and the type of hearts that they have, and it was only a matter of time until we stepped up to the plate and really capitalize on opportunities in that game.
I think one of the cool things, too, PJ mentioned it in the post-game interview with Justin Guard, that the play that was the touchdown play, and Clay, you can certainly speak to this because you have played in that spot, the read technically should have been a run, apparently, with whatever the guidelines are. We don't want to give away too much of whatever the game plan is, but sometimes you just have a feel. Sometimes the receiver has a feel, and the throw happens, and it's a touchdown, and the read was supposed to maybe be a run, and sometimes you have to do that. And for a freshman to just say, all right, the look is here, and I think Ethan even said, like, I looked up and all I saw was grass. I had to throw the ball, and boom, there it is. So, and I don't know all the cover two. PJ got into the cover two and all that stuff. You guys know all of that, but without giving too much away, kind of take us through what might have been going through the minds of both those guys on that game-winning play.
Yeah, that's the beauty of being a younger player, because he really hasn't had a full off season to be prepared to start, and so he's just out there playing football. It's like backyard football out there, just making plays, and that's the way it should be. Like you have there's a game plan, and there is a strategy to every single game, but at the end of the day, it's about execution. And, can we it doesn't matter what play is called, but can you execute it? And sometimes you have to think a little bit outside the box, even when, your reads aren't right. And, you're not necessarily supposed to throw the ball, but, he's a patient player. He's patient under pressure. and he waited for that second window, and he threw the ball. And it actually happened a handful of other times during the game, and they're all big plays. I mean, he's just out there playing football, playing the game that he loves with the teammates that he loves, and there's nothing more special than that.
The Nebraska game, I wanted to ask you about that because you were, I think you got more reps in that second half in that game too. And I distinctly remember you kind of become the motion man there sometimes and can do different things off of that, blocking some too, I think, with that. What was that second half like to score 20 straight points? It didn't look great at halftime at 10-0, but man, the defense buckled in after those first two drives, and then the offense got it going in that second half.
Yeah, that was a great statement in our season because it proved that we can come back and we can be a resilient football team. And that's, everything that this team and this culture stands for is being resilient and rising to the occasion and, attacking adversity. And that it couldn't have been more apparent in, 3 hours against Nebraska. And, we're down going into halftime. It's the biggest, usually I think the last time we came back from a deficit that big was what? You would probably know this.
Yeah, I did know it at one point. Now you're putting me on the spot, but it was like 2000, I'm going to say 14 or something. Yeah, it was a while ago, maybe even before that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, again, like that's, what the outside world is thinking, here we go again. But again, like this team is resilient and they're fighters. And we came out in the second half, made some adjustments and just executed every single play. Not every play was perfect, but, we did enough to get the job done. And you mentioned I got some more reps in the second half doing some blocking. Essentially, I was filling Keefe's role from 2021. So that, I mean, I'll do whatever is needed for the team to win. It was fun blocking for Mo. I mean, anytime you get a chance to block for Mo, it's, you're going to put everything out on the line for him. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think that the I don't know what maybe you call it the game sealing touchdown. Nothing was really sealed until the end, but I think it put you up 20-10. That drive, I think that was after the tea time interception. I think if memory serves, and it was 7 plays, 7 handoffs to Mo for the touchdown, and I think Clay Geary was a blocker on a few of those. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I think there was about 6 plays in a row that we ran the exact same play. Maybe flip sides, but it was funny. Like we're 3 or 4 plays into it, and I'm getting ready to go in motion again. I look across at the Nebraska linebacker sitting on the edge, and he's just laughing, like because he knows I'm coming. And it was like a funny. You have those funny moments in games where that brotherly love comes in between opposing teams, and you're just all there, playing the game that you love. Doesn't matter who the other team is. Like we all love this sport, and it was kind of funny.
Here he comes again, right? another. This guy's going to block me. The handoff's going to go to number 24, and we'll see if we can try to stop it this time. And
good luck.
And good enough for the Gophers that they couldn't stop it. That's for sure. All right. So how excited are you for Yankee Stadium and the Pinstripe Bowl against Syracuse, Clay?
Yeah, I can't wait. Syracuse is going to be a great matchup. We're really looking forward to playing those guys. But at the end of the day, like it's about us, and it's about, the last opportunity that we get to make a statement in our season and to end it the right way. And, to really have each one of these seniors leave their mark and put it all out on the line for their brothers. But we're just, looking forward to this next opportunity. New York is going to be a really great experience. I've never been to New York. And especially during Christmas, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was looking today even at the bowl manual. You guys, I think, get to go to a Christmas Rockette show as part of the bowl game. I think you get to, I think it's really cool. I mean, you're probably born after, maybe not because you're one of the older guys, but I'm thinking about the 9/11 memorial for young kids to understand what that was about. It's hard to believe that's already now 21 or so years ago, but I think there's a visit to that. There's some other things that you guys will get to do. And then you play, on the field where Aaron Judge is hitting home runs, and that's got to kind of be cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty special, and there was a little just some coincidence with going to Yankee Stadium. We've been watching as a team and like leadership council and board of directors. We've been watching the Jeter series.
Oh yeah,
and that's been kind of like a theme for leadership amongst our team. And we joke about the Yankee way, like their culture was so ingrained, and it still is to this day. But we joke about the Yankee way, and next thing you know, we're going to Yankee Stadium. So I think it was just a perfect way to cap the season. Like, it couldn't be more fitting that we're going to this place that we've been talking about the entire season.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. PJ mentioned that today too about that. I didn't know that you guys were doing that in terms of the leadership stuff with Jeter, and then you get to play on that field. Ben, we're talking about bowl season. Do you have any? What are your memories of bowl games when you were wearing the maroon and gold?
Well, we like to live at the Sun Bowl. That was kind of our thing. If you remember when Mason came back and
yes.
turned that program around, we seemed to find our way.
El Paso.
There. Yeah, quite a bit. We did have a fun Micron PC appearance in Nashville against Arkansas, which was great. I just remember, being a part of a program that made it back to the annual bowl game, which was really just such an exciting time for the team to come together and for the university. And so just so thrilled that these guys get to experience that, and that PJ's had that type of impact on the team. But it's, obviously just being born in this great state and growing up, I know that the potential is there, and I'm just so excited for when we can put it all together and bring back a Big Ten championship. And, cause it's all there. All the pieces are there, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's not missing. It's just getting it all to come together and kind of peak at the right time.
No doubt about that. Last one for you, Ben. We started this podcast at the very start of this podcast about your experience with Tony Dungy, and we have you here, so I'd be remiss not to ask you about some of what you took from him, and certainly what you talked about in those in that early part of the podcast was stuff from him. But do you have some favorite stories or a memory or two that you can share with us about the former Gopher quarterback who turned out to be one of the all-time great NFL quarterback coaches himself, I should say?
Gosh, that's a tough question, Mike, because there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. But, his consistency was pretty elite, to use a PJ term. The cliche, practice what you preach is, you could almost really define Coach Dungy by that. I mean, he was one of those rare individuals that where his behavior is a true and authentic reflection of who he actually really is, both on and off the field. And that's someone that through humility demands respect. It doesn't matter, if you believe all the same things that he believes, you really respect him because, of the way that he, has approached the game and approached his life. And one of the things that was pretty powerful about the locker room is most locker rooms are going to have some type of inspirational quote. And Tony's inspirational quote was, "No excuses, no explanations. You don't win on emotion, you win on execution." And that's something that Clay said earlier too.
Yeah.
And that just set the bar right away. And even though, Dungy is known for his quiet strength, and even though he never used vulgarity as a form of motivation, he demanded excellence. And these aren't soft skills. They're hard and they're metallic, and they can hit you with blunt force when they're used the right way. And so, developing, life skills and pouring into people, really is, I think, what makes coaches like Tony Dungy profound, and guys like PJ Fleck. And Clay and I have been just blessed to be in the midst of some of these guys, and it's been life-changing. It's
so cool too. And in Tony Dungy's case, and again, I've interviewed him a couple times, met him a couple times just through my work, and it's just been remarkable at what a presence he has, and to be a leader. Sometimes I think there are leaders who have had high success who are brash or who have to rattle the cage or have to stir the pot, and I don't even think that necessarily is wrong either. Sometimes you're not going to be popular if you're a leader. Sometimes the leaders have to make unpopular decisions, right? In Dungy's case, though, it seems like he has almost superseded all of that to the point where nobody seems to speak ill of him. Nobody seems to say, oh, yeah, he ran over a bunch of people to get to where he is. He's in a unique spot to me when you think about some of these great coaches who have accomplished a lot. There's always something where someone's going to say, well, he was great, but he also did this, or he was great and he took a shortcut or treated this person wrong. And it just seems like Dungy doesn't have any of those flaws. And you would have a better idea. I'm sure there were times behind closed doors where he would, sure, as you mentioned, he'd be demanding, but it seems like it's a unique way in which he would be demanding.
Yeah, I kind of coined it as the combination of grace and excellence, right? Grace is to act in kindness or clemency while demanding excellence. And so, the consequences never change, but it's how you talk about the consequences that really can change everything. And so he had this way of telling you that you're not getting your job done, and if you don't get your job done, then you might not have a job, but you'd still walk away feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, right.
And that was kind of the thing. So, it was effective.
Yeah. When I mentioned earlier, sometimes leaders have to make unpopular decisions. I guess the real good leaders like Tony Dungy make unpopular decisions, but they don't seem unpopular because he was so skilled at it. You don't even realize it's an unpopular decision, right?
Yeah, that was true. And listen, he was a brilliant football mind, and he knew the game. One last story I'll share is when we probably had one of the greatest AFC championships in history. This is when we came back to beat the New England Patriots down 21 at halftime, and Tony came in at halftime and gave his presentation, and he concluded it by we had lost the kickoff, so we were receiving going into the second half, and he proceeded to tell the team verbatim what would happen on the kickoff, and he, from the catch of the kickoff to where he I'm blanking on our return man, who ran out of bounds, and then the next 8 consecutive plays until we scored, and it literally happened that way.
Wow.
Yeah, this is written about online. Go ask other. I mean, it was prophetic. It was crazy. I mean, he described verbatim what was going to happen on this kickoff and this drive to score, and then off to the races, and it happened. And we came back and ended up winning with seconds left on the clock. So it was crazy things like that happening at the same time.
Pretty fun. Well, hey, we could go in a whole nother hour or two. I'm sure I haven't even asked you about Peyton Manning, and we could probably do a whole podcast on that. I'm a big Peyton Manning fan, and he's in about every third commercial now when you watch a game. He's he's doing life insurance. He's doing, I don't know, direct TV or whatever else. But I'd be interested. We should have you back, both you guys back. But I know we can talk a whole bunch more. But for this week, this will have to do, and it was so fun catching up with both of you guys. So much fun stuff, cool stuff, important stuff happening. Gopher Football Bowl trip. Find out about servant leadership within both the Gopher football program and the great folks at True North and Sunbelt. So, Clay, thank you, and we'll see you on the practice field, and we'll see you out in New York.
Thanks for having me.
All right, always fun. And Ben, thank you as always. So great to catch up and get some of your wisdom imparted on us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, very good. There it is, episode number 48. My thanks again to Ben Utecht and Clay Geary. So much good insight from a football, business, and life perspective. I hope you enjoyed listening to our conversation as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. The Go Gopher podcast is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also proud to be supported by Affinity Plus Federal Credit Credit Union, your local credit union throughout the state of Minnesota. Go to affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Affinity Plus sponsors our player profile each week, supporting Gopher student athletes. We're also brought to you by State Farm agent Tony Hoagland. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please be sure right now to subscribe to the Go Gopher podcast. It's absolutely free to listen at any time. And please share the link on your social media channels so others can listen as well. We'll talk again next week.